stealing property from the people. There's been a whole lot of fraud that has happened that many of us are just now finding out is going on. Many of us can see that if somebody takes your kids without a warrant, take your kids just because they feel like they have a so-called concern, but they're making money, thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars off of your children, that is a problem. And so if you go all the way back to the Declaration of Independence, you can go back before that, but you can see in the Declaration of Independence that the people were upset because the king had put together groups of men to go out and rob the people. And so pretty much what the king did was create private agencies that would go out, bypass the law, and just go take stuff from people. And so that's what's happening with us now. We have agencies that are coming out and taking children, and they're getting paid from the federal corporation, not the government, but the federal corporation. So they're doing private business altogether, making money off of our little ones, taking them for no reason, writing reports that'll say whatever they wanted to say. I'm sorry, somebody's trying to get here, and they're calling me like crazy. But they're making reports that are full of lies. They will not take those words that they say in those courts that are private businesses and come out in the real world and say this person beat their kid, this person did this or did that. They will not do that because they know if they lie in a real court, they go to jail. So they don't want to go to jail, they just want to take your little ones, and they get paid for it. It's a big conflict of interest. And as we see, we have people who tried to meet with the head of DCS. Can't remember his name, Greg McKay. We have people who tried to meet with the governor. They will not meet with any of the parents. So they have this thing where they'll take your kids, but then they won't even meet with you to discuss what's going on. They all make money off of the kids, but they won't meet you face to face to talk to you about what these workers are doing. So they're creating agencies who will go out and rob you, who will take your little ones, who will get the police to come with guns and throw you on the ground and put a gun in your head. But they don't even have the courage to just talk to you and say, hey, well, this is why they did this, or what did this worker do to you? So they got agencies running around that are private businesses that they act like they have no control over. Nobody wants responsibility for CPS, and then when they take enough kids and everybody finds out and they make enough money, they want to say, oh, we'll get rid of this one and make another one. But it's really the same group, same people, doing the same old thing. And so we got kids who've been sex trafficked, kids who are being raped, and people call in and tell CPS, hey, I'm getting raped. And they won't even do reports. The police come and have hundreds and hundreds of reports and won't turn it in as evidence and prosecute the people who are working with foster care. Why would that ever happen? Why would that ever happen? Police arrest people, that's what they do. But why won't they turn in reports when it has to do with foster care? The reason they won't is because police also have a contract with CPS and Title 4E. So every time they come pick up one of your kids, they get $800. If they can't get your kid, they get half of that. It's called an engagement fee. So the people in the bar who are at the top of the police are actually working along with the people in the bar who are at the top of CPS and the people who are in the legal team at the hospital, so they got a contract too. And they're all working together, getting federal funds from all of our Social Security to take kids. So that's something that should be alarming to us. And as we start, I believe in God. I don't know if everybody here believes in God. It really don't matter if you do or not to me. When it comes to this, we are going to start with a prayer because I do believe God is leading this thing. None of us who have been working to see powerful things happen will ever say that it's just us that made it happen. We all know that some of the most powerful people who have come out in the nation now say, hey, I know God put me in this fight. I know it's God that led my steps here. I know it's God that gave me this information. David will say the same thing. Lawler will say the same thing. Sergio says the same thing. I see a man bobbing his head now. LJF, Melinda. We all have been fighting, and there's no way in the world that any of us could have found out all this information at one time ever. If you just look at statistics, it's impossible. They have hid this with the best attorneys in the world, and we're breaking it open like God has just given it to us on a plate. And so I'm thankful for all the great people here. I'm thankful for all the work you guys are doing, all the help. It wouldn't be possible if God didn't send on you guys to help. Many of you lit my fire in the beginning and got me to start talking. I had little ladies fire me up to start talking in the beginning. And so we cannot doubt what humble beginnings will lead to. That was like less than a year ago, and now we're seeing this stuff blowing up across the nation. So before we come in, I want to get Hal to come up and give a prayer. Hal is the preacher at the congregation that I've been at. When I fell to my worst, this congregation was here for me. When I struggled and I was down, Hal would talk to me. I call Hal 2 o'clock in the morning. Hal will tell you, this is 2 o'clock in the morning guy. When I saw stuff going wrong, I'm like, Hal, 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning, call him on the phone. He's one of the best brothers in the world. I mean, one who will be there. He says, I'm down like 4 flat tires. That's what he always says. But he's been there. He's a man who preaches the truth in season or out. It doesn't matter if people like it or not. He tells the truth. And he'll say some stuff that you hear him say, and you'll say, oh, shucks, you must have been studying too. Because he'll break down who it is that's really behind this whole thing and tell you by names who it is. And so I wanted him to come up and speak to you guys for a second, and then go ahead and lead us in prayer before we have Dave come up.
Well, David sings a hymn. I'm going to pass the collection plate.
Yeah, right.
I'm just joking.
I ain't singing.
One of the things that, for those who do believe, one of the things I try to remind us all is that the first institution ever instituted was by God Himself, is the family. And really, as the family goes, the way the church goes, or your country goes, or your community goes. And so, really, it's an attack on something that God has established. And what we have to understand is that God's word, according to what Jesus said, is true. And so, what we need to understand is God has planned it this way. This is the way it's supposed to be. And anybody who actually stands against it or tries to do something different is going to have to answer to God for it. Now, I believe that. I know that's true. As a matter of fact, Jesus actually had a very soft spot in His heart for children, for those who could not see after themselves. And He made a statement in Matthew chapter 18. And He says in verse number 3, He says, verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself and be as a little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso receiveth one such little child in my name receiveth me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone be hanged around his neck, and that he be drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe unto the world because of offenses. For it must needs be of offenses come, but woe unto that man by whom the offenses come. Yeah.
Does it say what happens to the guy that hangs the millstone around?
No. You're offering millstones, is that what you're doing?
Just fly the road.
And what we need to hear exactly. And look, when we were kids, I don't understand how much worse punishment can be for just disobedient people. There's people who are just evil people. When we were kids, we said, like, man, you're going to hell wearing gasoline draws. And so anybody who offends children, causes problem with children, you got a real problem with the maker. And so what we have to understand is that, it is something that God has ordained. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we pray believing that God can do everything we're asking for. One of the things you have to remember is that God has always shown His power from the platform of a problem. As a matter of fact, when things are going great, many times people don't even take the time to think of looking to God for help. But when somebody recognizes that you cannot fix this on your own, that is outside of your own physical ability and understanding, then God has the ability to show what He can actually do. And what we need to understand is that we would get taught, we get fed a bill of goods here in the United States, because we always try to get, we always try to get preached about there being American-centered. And from people on my side of the aisle, like Afro-centered or Euro-centered or Latin-centered. If you believe in God, you have to understand you've been called to be truth-centered. Yeah. Truth-centered. And by the simple fact that there's lies out there, that shows you that there's truth to be had. And so the thing that we be praying for is that the truth come out and that everyone can see what's really happening here. Because truly, it's not that God that blinds the eyes of anyone. Let's all pray together. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you with our heads bowed and our hearts humble, knowing that we'd ask in faith that you hear our prayers, Father. Father, we come standing on that promise. And so, Father, we come at this time that each soul that's here has come to gain an understanding of truth, gain an understanding of what is truly happening so that they can truly see the actual enemy. We understand who the tempter is. But many times there's people that are among us who sometimes knowingly, which is sad, but sometimes unknowingly being used by our adversary to do harm to the family. And so, Father, we pray that we don't spend too much time trying to figure out anyone's intentions. Father, you explain to us very simple that you'll know a person by their fruit. And so, Father, we pray that we'll learn to be good fruit inspectors so we can truly see who is really there to help and who is really there to do us harm. Father, we ask your blessings on each soul that's here, that as they speak with understanding so that everyone can collectively can truly understand what they can possibly do, what they can be used for in your hands to bring about a change in the lives of their own lives, but also in the lives of their children and each family that's involved. Father, we ask you to bless us as only you can, and we ask this blessing in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I'm going to ask a favor. Can you guys just call maybe the first 3 or 4 on this side? I don't need a whole. That way I don't have to yell, and we can be more face to face and be more of a family here, because this.
That was interesting about 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's when parents wake up and they get, they think of this, there's possibly that the idea comes to them, the sentence, something comes to you. When you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You're right. And I would wake up at 2 in the morning and I would see it was like a battle. What were the battle injuries of the day? Who survived the day? Did anyone make any headway? And we, as parents, would wake up and just start reaching out to each other on the internet. What are you doing? Oh, I'm watching PBS, about, micronutrients. What are you doing?
And there's something to be said for that. I mean, that's, I wake up in the middle of the night and something's told me,
Yeah, the idea.
oh, I've got to go write that down,
The
right?
light comes
Right now,
out.
and it's very important. I don't know, everybody's at different levels, here, and the basics are always important. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the basics today because I know most of you have all heard it. But what we really, truly have to do is we've got to recognize who we are and who we're not. Who they are making us believe we are. See, and that's the key. They're making us through our schools, through government forms, through a number of different things, who they want us to be. And it's not who we truly are. And who we truly are is individuals, as men and women, as sons and daughters of God, and as living souls. Genesis 2:7 says, since we're in church, I'm going to use some scripture. But, it says, God created man, and then he breathed from the dust of the earth, and then he breathed into our nostrils the gift of life, and man became a living soul. A living soul. Our bodies just returned to dirt, came from dirt, but we are living souls. And so I always use those words, a living soul, in any document I ever send it to any court. I want them to know who we truly are. And, I've asked, and I'm going to screw this all up because I move around, Okay. So, Genesis 1:26 through 28, God gave mankind dominion over the land, air, and water. That is law. Don't let them tell you anything different. That is our 3 jurisdictions of law. Our Bar Association has learned over the last 200 years how to misuse the term jurisdiction in a number of different ways to confuse the public. They don't want us to know. They don't want us to know the 3 types of law and what those laws control. Okay? The jurisdiction of the land is common law. I've got some new people coming in. Come on in, get close. Because I'm going to lose my voice. I've been talking all week long. Sun up to sunset. So, anyway, we're just talking about the very basics of law. Where did the word come from? Which word? It's land, air, and water. God gave us dominion over those three things. The land is common law. It's common to all mankind. The air is ecclesiastical law, and the water is admiralty law. Okay? It is also, the land is equity. Ecclesiastical law is trusts. Jurisdiction of water is contracts, common. Okay, we have the ability as man to contract with anyone we want. There's too many people in this country who know that the type of law we're under, there's something wrong with it. It's corrupted. Okay, there's something wrong. There's no moral foundation to it anymore. Okay, so this law that we're under is a jurisdiction of admiralty. It's inland piracy. It's a captured flag. Okay, if you look at our courtrooms, you've got the United States war flag up there with a gold fringe around it. That means they've captured the flag. They're committing inland piracy upon us. An attorney is to attorn. What is to attorn? To turn over, to take property from one and give to another. Okay, that's what they're doing. So if you hire an attorney, don't think they're working on your behalf. Okay, they work for the Bar Association. The Bar Association, we signed a treaty with the Bar Association in 1947. Anybody know that? What is the legal definition of the word treaty? It's a contract or agreement between two foreign entities or nations. Okay? So why do we have to sign a treaty with the Bar Association? Aren't they the American Bar Association? No. They're the British Accreditation Registry. They're controlled by a company called the Crown Inc. If you don't believe me, go to the State of Illinois' website under the Attorney General's office. Look at the history of the Attorney General's office. And it says the Attorney General's office for the State of Illinois was put into place to protect and uphold the interests of the Crown. Okay, they don't even hide it from us. If you look at all the new federal court buildings they're building all over the country, they're all in the shape of ships. Okay? All the new buildings are in the shape of ships. They know that people have woken up and figured out that they're an admiralty law anyway, so they're not even hiding it from us anymore. They're just coming blatantly out and displaying it. Okay? Now the problem with that is, it is not de jure. It is not a de jure government. The first thing you've got to understand is that there's two of everything in this country. There's two United States of America. There's a de jure government of the United States and there's a de facto government of the United States. De facto means without fact. De jure is the government that lives within all of us. Okay? It's what our founding fathers created this nation on. Because it's just vibrating like crazy. So, anyway. Welcome.
Hi. Right here.
There's lots of room on that side over there. Thanks for sitting close because it saves my voice a little bit. So, there's two United States governments. There's also two of us. There's me, the man, and then there's my person or my persona that they have created. That persona is an entity. Okay? It's the office of person. It happened from our birth certificate. So I'm going to cover this stuff really quick, this basics really quick, because everybody needs this basic lesson. But a lot of you guys are at all different levels. I'm trying to catch the ones that are behind up to speed really quick. Okay? The biggest problem we have with these guys today taking our kids is they're doing it without any due process of law. How did they get away with that? don't own our own children. When a mother is pregnant, she walks into a foundling hospital, and all hospitals in the United States in 1912 were designated as foundling hospitals. The legal definition of the word foundling is a safe place to abandon a child. You're still traveling.
What? Your phone now? Like,
Your destination is on the right.
Oh, your phone, yeah, your phone.
Your GPS.
you can keep talking, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, she walks into this foundling hospital, and she goes through a major medical procedure called childbirth. She's been under duress, in pain, probably under the influence of painkillers, and she's handed a stack of documents to sign. And she's told that this is just to give your baby a name and to register it with the state. And that's all she's told. There's no full and honest disclosure of what that truly is, and what that truly means. Okay? And she signs that document as an informant. The legal definition of the word informant is someone who gives someone else up to another. Someone who gives someone else up to another. So the mother is declared indigent and a pauper, abandons her child in the hospital. The state adopts that child. It adopts it, it bonds it, it insures it, it creates a cuss-up number, and it creates a cesta QV trust. The government has to operate in trusts. All things are in trust. Read the Bible. There's dozens of trusts throughout the Bible. When you understand trust laws, you'll see the trustee-beneficiary relationship all throughout the Bible. Okay? They set up the cesta QV trust and assign the child a cuss-up number. The birth certificate is on bond paper. It's drawn on a bank. It is the order to the bank to issue a certain amount of United States Treasury bonds upon that child's birth. Our lives, our labor, is the full faith and credit of the United States government. They can't sell Treasury bonds out of thin air. They base it off of our lives, our labor, our sweat equity. So common law is actually equity. That's the way this country was set up. Equity, trust, and contracts. Your three types of law, which is common, ecclesiastical, and admiralty. Three jurisdictions. I'm going to keep saying this over and over because I got to pound it in people's heads. Juris means law or right law. Diction means words. The words we use determines the jurisdiction under which we stand, whether it's common law, admiralty law, or ecclesiastical law. Okay? The words we use. Let me give you an example. We can travel upon the roadways in our private automobile and be perfectly safe in our protection and our papers with nothing more than a passport. We are lawful. That's common law. Now in admiralty law, it's I'm driving or operating my motor vehicles upon the highway, following all the rules, codes, and statutes, and operating with a driver's license, I am legal. Okay? But that's in commerce. You understand that nobody needs a driver's license unless they are hauling passengers for hire, like an Uber driver, a taxi driver, a bus driver. If they're transporting goods or services for interstate commerce, or if they're a public servant in the performance of their public duties. That's it. No, I'm not telling you to go do it until you learn the language. Once you learn the language, it's fine. I use a passport everywhere I go to drive. Okay? Very first paragraph in here is a command from the Secretary of State of the United States. It says, the Secretary of State of the United States hereby requests to all whom it may concern to permit the citizen or national named herein to pass without delay or hindrance, and in case of need, to give all lawful aid and protection as a commandment to that police officer to let you pass without delay or hindrance. So with this, you have limited diplomatic immunity as a state national. You guys are Arizona, as Spain is to France, Italy, and Germany. It's a different nation state. It's united for a cause. We asked the federal government to provide us with 19 essential governmental services. That's what we agreed to pay for, and no more. And that's why the United States is the government. Each nation state here, all 50 of them, because of the equal footing doctrine, came together to ask the government to provide us with 19 essential governmental services. Okay? So there's different statuses in this country. You can be a state national, or you can pretend to be a U.S. citizen. Most of you guys have never gone through what it actually required to be a U.S. citizen. You just checked a box on a form somewhere. Said, I'm a taxpayer, and you fill out a 1040. Okay? Things like that. You got a driver's license when you didn't need to. You agreed to be a U.S. citizen when you're not really. You're really a state national in Arizona. See? This is how they get you in their admiralty jurisdiction. Okay? And you can be either one you want to be. See, the number one foundational, unalienable right we all have is our right of self-determination. That's the cornerstone foundational right that anyone has. God called it free agency in the Bible. He gave us free agency to choose who we want to be, how we want to live, what we want to do, how we want to operate, who we want to contract with. Okay? So we have this free agency to choose who we want. Now, if you walk into a courtroom, what happens? They choose who you are. So aren't they supposed to be your public servants? Aren't you supposed to be the boss and then the employee? Well, then how come you stood up when the judge walked into the room? Because the minute you stood up, you said, I'm the employee. Employees stand when the boss walks in the room. You know what the boss does when an employee walks up in the room? He leans back in his chair, he puts his feet up on the desk, and he grabs his cigar. Okay? That's what the boss does. So the judge, you walk through the door from his chambers in the courtroom, the bailiff says, all rise for the Honorable Judge Bob Smith, and everybody stands up. If there's one person sitting down, the judge walks over, and just before he sits in his chair, he scans the room. Do you know the bailiff also scans the room? Because after the court's done, he has to swear an affidavit that no one was sitting when the judge walked in. Okay? He's the witness. Because the guy challenging his jurisdiction is the one that's still sitting. You stand up, you're automatically a citizen. They've got tacit agreement that you're a citizen. They have to get tacit agreement of 4 things. And they're going to presume it. Okay? First of all, it's all through presumption. Presumption, assumption, hearsay, and previously are the 4 most important words in the law, and they're not going to teach me that in law school, I guarantee it. I love what they teach us in law school. Nothing. All right? Policy and procedure, and how to remain in honor, not dishonor. They teach us a lot of language and how to be a good secretary, and how to do forms in proper manner. What font type size to use, and how to space things, and they teach us all that good stuff in law school. But they don't teach us the law, and that's an interesting fact. They just don't teach us the law, they don't teach us the origin of the law, they don't teach us where it comes from, and they don't teach proper jurisdiction of the law. So, anyway, I got a little off track because I get heated on these kind of topics, but forgive me for that. But what they're getting your tacit agreement of is you being a citizen, a person, and a resident. A citizen used to stand for city employee. I'll tell you how it came about. At the end of the Revolutionary War, King of England left some British soldiers upon this land as citizens to provide the American free men of the world, of America, free men of America, with essential governmental services. So if he left citizens to provide the free people with governmental services, he's trying to take over government right from the get-go, isn't he? But he's also saying an employee of government is a citizen. So don't they offer you a benefits package? Don't they call it privileges and benefits? Same thing your HR representative of your company says, right? Yeah. See, a citizen stood for city employee at that time. And the 14th Amendment of the Constitution made you all citizens when you were really free men and women, when you were really state nationals, Arizonans. So if you want to take government back, you got to take it back first inside you. Be the men and women, be the sons and daughters of God, be the Arizonan, or the Oregonian, or the Californian. Stand up and understand what government is, what it means, where our laws come from, what 3 jurisdictions we're in. It's not that complicated. I'm boiling it down to the simplest form I possibly can, so everybody can understand it, because we need to teach the masses. You know, since April 11, 1953, our federal government took over our school systems. They paraded Jana Spalding around as a sweet little old lady school teacher, and what a precious thing she was. If you could think of the best school teacher in the whole world, you'd picture Jane Spalding in your mind. And she sold the states on standardized education, on the auspices of government funding. And they paraded her around every state for 2 years, and they finally on April 11th got the last state to sign in on the deal, and she became the head of the Department of Education. And 49 days later she was fired, and they put in Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller, who made $140 million that year and didn't pay 1 dime in taxes. And at his acceptance speech, he said, "I consider this the greatest position in government." And the flashbulbs went off, and the news reporters all raised their hands, and they said, "Why do you consider it more important than the President and the Vice President of the United States?" And he says, "Absolutely I do, because if you give me 1 generation, 1 decade, I'll change the minds and therefore the direction of the world." And he did. Everything got standardized education. I can, having had a degree in history and studied history my whole life, I can go through any history textbook and show you that everything in there is a lie. Everything in our children's textbooks are lies. Look at Common Core math. That's a perfect example of how far-fetched they can make things. Okay? So we have been indoctrinated by our public school system. I think the first thing we all ought to do is pull your kids out of school. And an approved course is Ron Paul's homeschooling program. It's a nationwide approved course. I mean, guy running for president, I wish he would have got it. But homeschool your kids, start teaching them the truth. Seek the truth. Because nothing I learned in kindergarten through 12th grade was the truth. I can tell you that. I disproved it all, and I'm a little pissed about it. Wasted 12 years of my life. Okay. So, how does that get your kids back? Citizen, person, resident. What's the legal definition of the word resident? It is someone there temporarily to do business. That's the legal definition of the word resident. Someone there temporarily to do business. By the sheer use of how you write your address down on a piece of paper, makes you live in Washington, D.C., and you're residing in Arizona temporarily to do business. The United States of America was divided into 12 United States postal districts. All courts were U.S. district postal courts. We'll get into that portion of it in a minute. So, if you don't say your name in upper or lowercase in care of rural route, and then your house and street address, and then your city, and then spell out your state. Don't use AZ, because that's a corporation. Arizona in all capital letters, the state of Arizona is a corporation. Arizona is a territory. It's a geographical location on a map. Okay? State of Arizona is a corporation. Remember, there's two of everything in the United States. You gotta understand this really quick. Maricopa County Corporation, Maricopa, of geographical location on map. City of Phoenix is a corporation. Phoenix is a geographical location on the map. And they're two entirely separate things in jurisdiction. Okay? Child Protective Services is a for-profit business. It has nothing to do with your government. Neither does your police force. Neither does the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Okay? They're not your government. The Supreme Court of the United States says, since governments have chosen to incorporate themselves, they must follow the same rules as any other corporation. Do they? Get an employee from Walmart, kick your door down, steal your kid? Might not shoot you right there if they tried that, right? Protect your family. But these cops are doing it. The CPSI agents are doing it. They have no legal right to do that whatsoever. They're not following any due process of law. The Supreme Court goes on to say that rules, codes, statutes, ordinances, policies, executive orders are not law. They are not law. Now they're making us believe they're law, right? They tell us, oh, it's law. Every time they say that, I just want to strangle them, you know. It's the law. You have to put on your turn signal when you make that corner. No, you have to be safe. Nobody can tell me to I have to put my turn signal on, but if I want to be safe, I'm going to do it anyway. You know? But if I look behind me and there's no cars for a mile, and I look both ways and there's no cars for a mile, and I look in front of me and there's no cars for a mile, how the hell am I breaking the law not putting my turn signal on? Okay? You see what I'm saying? Teaching a little fire and brimstone in here, I use the word hell, so. Anyway, we have to understand rules, codes, statutes, and ordinances are not law. They're corporate bylaws, according to the Supreme Court. Corporate bylaws. So does the employee of McDonald's or Walmart have to follow McDonald's or Walmart's corporate bylaws? Yes, they do. But if we walk in their store to buy something, do we have to follow the rules that employee has to follow? No, we don't. Why are they making us believe that we do? You see what I'm saying? Why are they making us believe that we do? Any way they can control us, make us passive, the easier we are to rob. Okay? And some of you have heard this a million times, but if you want to pull a con job off on a million people, and you have to hire 50 people to work for you who will help you pull off that con job, do you know if you told them the whole plan, they'd probably all quit? Because people are basically good, honest, moral people. They're our neighbors, right? They live next door, down the street. And they're basically good, honest, moral. They want to go to work every day, and they want to go home, they want to be with their kids, and go to sleep, and be able to sleep the night, and be able to converse with their spouse, and all is well, and get a paycheck at the end of the day, all right? So, you take those 50 people and you compartmentalize them. You tell them, hey, police officer, this is your job, your duty, that's it. Hey, attorney, this is your job, your duty, that's it. Hey, Child Protective Services worker, this is your job, your duty, that's it. Judge, same way, doesn't matter. I mean, make whatever, whoever you're dealing with as one of those 50 people. Now all of a sudden, they're just doing their job. They can be good, moral, honest people. And they're stealing from a million people through joining together in joinder conspiracy. Under Title 18, Section 241, it's a conspiracy to deprive you of your rights. That's what it is. Under Title 18, Section 242, it's a deprivation of rights under the color of law. What is the color of law? That means something that you think is law that isn't. It's a fallacy. Rules, codes, statutes, policies, ordinances, executive orders, whatever they want to call it, whatever they want to name it, is a fallacy. It's a corporate bylaw. Are you getting a paycheck from the federal government? I mean, some people get welfare and housing and things like that. They're getting a paycheck. Trust me. But most of us aren't. So the quicker you can wean yourself off the tin of government, the better off we're all going to be. Okay? But, on the other hand, most of us aren't. Most of us are just men and women getting up on Sunday morning and going to church, and we go to the grocery store and the doctor's office. We'll talk about doctors in a minute, because that all changed. And going to get a movie and a pizza, and then coming home, watch TV with our family or something. Okay? We don't need a driver's license to do any of those things. We don't need to be stopped and harassed by the police to do those things. In fact, they actually commit a lot of felonies in their process of doing that. Do you know that when a police officer puts his lights on behind you to stop you, he is creating an emergency where none existed, and that's a felony? The minute he flips those lights on, he created an emergency where none existed. That's a felony. He walks up to your window, you roll your window down, and he gives your tacit agreement of being a citizen, a person, or resident within 60 seconds. Here's how he does it. I was a deputy sheriff. Okay. Hi, can I have your driver's license, proof of insurance, and registration, please? And you dig them all out and you hand them to me. The minute you did exactly what he told you to do, what the boss told you to do, you're an employee, and you got your tacit agreement of being a citizen. Now he just looks at your driver's license, it's got your name in all caps, well that's your persona. He's got a tacit agreement of you being a person. He looks at your address, now you live in Washington, D.C., but you reside here in Arizona temporarily to do business because your zip code says 8 something something something. That's the 8th district of the District of Columbia. You look at the USPS laws. It says you can be zip exempt if you want to. You know, using a zip code is voluntary. Doesn't even slow your mail down. Okay, so you voluntarily use your zip code. You live in Washington, D.C. There's 320 million people in the United States that live in Washington, D.C., and they reside in whatever state they're in just temporarily to do business. Now you're fully in admiralty law. That's how you're going to be treated. That's how you're going to be judged. You're boxed into that corner. And you can't use the benefits of trust law or contract law very well. I mean, equity law. You're in contract law. So now, there better be a contract, right? So what do they get you to do? How many papers did they make you sign, right? Sign to steal your own kid. Isn't that sad? That's the most sad thing on earth. I'm almost in tears right now. Because that's not how they present it. They deceive her without full and honest disclosure of what that means. Okay? How do you avoid a contract? Well, what are the elements of a contract? Do you guys know? There's 8 elements to a contract. This is just a learning. Okay? There must be privity of contract. That's one.
What is it? I'm sorry?
Privity. That's one they all want you to forget. They all want you to forget that there must be privity of contract. You know what that means? Let's just say I have a contract with my credit card company. I forget to pay the bill and they send me to a collection agency. Did I have a contract with the collection agency? No. Chances are the collection agency, for a reduced amount, 50 cents on the dollar or 30 cents on the dollar, bought that debt from the credit card company. What you really need to do is say, thank you very much for that gift. I really needed it at this point in my life. I couldn't really afford to make that payment. thank you so much for paying my debt off for me. But there's no privity of contract. I don't have a contract with a collection agency. Okay? That's what privity of contract, that's the one they all like to forget. Okay? So there's just a little bit there. There's got to be signatures, there's got to be a meeting of the minds, there's got to be consideration, there's got to be full and honest disclosure of the facts. Then you have a contract. You got to have 8 elements to your contract. Okay? They'd like you to believe that it's just consideration and agreement. Oh, that's not it. Why do most government forms have boxes? They put everything in boxes. You notice that? It's so you can't sue the government. They boxed everything and made it not part of the contract. It's the 4 corners rule. Anything you put a box around, if you got a contract and you put a box around your zip code, they can't hold you as being in Washington, D.C. because that zip code is not part of the contract. It's inside of a box. All government forms are just a bunch of boxes. They don't want you suing the government. That's when, and then when you do sue them, you lose because you didn't know why. Now I'm just telling you why. Okay? I mean, there's many, many things we need to learn as men and women how to operate and be free people. You can be free if you want. Once you know all 3 jurisdictions, you can step back and forth from one to the other. You know, all these patriot groups and stuff, sovereign citizens, they just want to be in common law, and that's the only reason they do that, guys. Don't find them at fault. The only reason they do that is they see the corruption in the admiralty system. So they're sick and tired of it. Okay? But they're good, honest, moral people. They're no different than you and me. It doesn't matter if we're black, white, Asian, we're all in this thing together. Start treating everybody like we're one people. Okay? Doesn't matter. There's 3 jurisdictions of law. Know when to be in the one you need to be in at the time you need to be in it. When you're dealing with estates and finance and money and stuff, put everything in trust. Let the trust own it all. Be the trustee. Leave it to your children as the beneficiaries. Put it in trust. Then it's not going to get stolen from you. Okay? It's not going to get turned by the attorney. See, who can an attorney represent? This is very, very important. I know it seems like I say it over and over again.
Incompetent people.
Yeah, dead entities, an entity or a corporation, a minor, somebody infirmed, and somebody incompetent. That's what it says in the law, who an attorney can represent. Did you hear a man or a woman? No, they can't represent a man or a woman. They cannot represent a man or a woman. That's why these judges try and force you to have an attorney. Because it forces you into admiralty jurisdiction. Okay? You know why they say you can't bring the Constitution up in court? Let me tell you about Ryan Bundy. I was Ryan Bundy's legal team. And Ryan's getting tried with a whole bunch of other people, and all these other people have lawyers, right? And Ryan didn't have one, because I told him not to have one. Okay? I said, that's the worst thing you could ever do. And Ryan believed what I said. I've known Ryan for a while. So, goes into court every day, and at first he had his Constitution in his pocket. And the judge told him, you can't bring that Constitution up. And then some of the other guys were mentioning the Constitution. They say, oh no, you can't bring the Constitution up. They'd carry their Bibles in with them. Oh no, you can't have a Bible in the courtroom. Okay, other than the one they make you swear your hand on to, which they don't even do anymore. Okay? You can't have that in here. You can't have the Constitution in here. You can't talk about it. You can't bring it up. Why is the judge telling you that? Because you're a citizen, you're not a party to it. You all think you have rights, you're a party to the Constitution? No, you're not. Only a state national is a party to the Constitution. We, the people, the state nationals, are ones who created government. U.S. citizens were created by government. You can't be a party to something that you were created by. You understand that? So what happened with Ryan? They said, oh, okay, you don't, they tried to force him to have an attorney several times. And he just kept saying, no, I don't want an attorney. So they said, okay, we filed a document saying we don't want an attorney. Says, oh, we're pro se. You're pro se. Well, what does pro se mean? Professional self. Anytime you're a professional, you're simply an attorney representing your persona, your entity, right? So we file a document that says, no, I'm not pro se, I'm sui juris. And what do they say? Okay, if you don't want to be pro se, we'll say you're pro per. What is pro per? Professional persona, right? Still a professional, still representing your person, your entity. Nothing changed, really, right? In the law, I'm giving you the short version. He can tell you that. I'm giving you the short version, all right? But it's the same. So now, we say, no, you're not pro per, you're sui juris. Then we told them again, you're not pro per, you're sui juris. The rule of three. You got to tell them 3 times. They have to ask you things 3 times. They'll try 3 times to force you to have an attorney. If you keep saying no, and they can get mean, okay? They can get darn mean about it. They can say, I really think you should have a public defender. And you stand up and say, no. I'm sui juris, I want to represent myself. And they'll say, you know, young lady, if you don't take a public defender, you're probably not going to win this case.
Well, my friend said,
There you go. And you say no. And they'll say, if you don't take it, like in Jamie Kovacs' case, she'd been tried in 4 felony counts of fraud in the 9th District Felony Courthouse and lost before I met her. And they said, if you don't take our public defender, we're going to call in the U.S. Marshals right now and have you thrown in jail. See, he's saying it 3 times, following the rule of 3. But he's just saying it 3 different ways, getting more forceful each time. Trying to, through fear and coercion, pull you back into their jurisdiction. That's what he's trying to do. You got to remember, it's a tug. He's trying to pull you into Admiralty, and you're saying, no, right now I'm not in Admiralty. If I want to be in Admiralty, let's sign a contract with every elements of the contract, right? So you can control that. It's your self-determination. So Ryan, after we filed the 3rd document, I said, Ryan, I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to take your copy of the Constitution and put it in your pocket, and if you got to stick something in it below that so it sticks way up out of your pocket, I want you to wear it in the courtroom. See, before that, the U.S. Marshals were stopping them at the door, confiscating constitutions, even from the general public, the audience. They wouldn't allow it into the courtroom. So Ryan kept it way up there in his pocket like that, and he walks in, and he sits down. The U.S. Marshal smiled at him. And they put a federal witness on the stand, a BLM agent. The BLM agent sitting on the stand, and all these other guys and their attorneys are all questioning this BLM agent. Ryan has basically been sitting there not allowed to speak for months, right? Months periods. Not allowed to speak. And all of a sudden, all the attorneys get done questioning this guy, and the judge looks over at Ryan and says, Ryan, would you like to question the witness? About shocked Ryan to death. And he stands up and he says, yes, I would. And he walks over and he says, did you swear an oath to protect and defend the Constitution? And the guy says, yes, I did. And Ryan gets a little cocky and he says, well, have you read it? And he admitted he didn't. Right. So Ryan pulls it out of his pocket and he proceeds for 3.5 hours to go through the Constitution and create a dialogue and ask him questions about it. He even corrected the guy 2 or 3 times in there on what certain things meant. And then he went and sat down. And then the next hearing, they all showed up in court. And she threw the gavel down, dismissed the case, she was left home. It was done, it was over with. And everybody thinks it was the Wooten memo. But see, the Wooten memo had already been denied by motion not to be brought up in court. But Ryan was allowed to mention it in the courtroom that day. See, all he did is mention it. He just says, next time we'll talk about the Wooten memo. And the very next hearing, they all showed up. She just dismissed the case and sent everybody home. Except those that took a plea deal. They all went to jail. Everyone that allowed their attorney to talk them into taking a plea deal went to jail. Okay? Very important lesson right there. So, very interesting how our court systems work. It is all based on presumption of you being a citizen, a person, a resident, and a minor. What is the legal definition of the word minor? It's simple. Somebody under the age of 18 years old, or somebody of any age, who is not claimed their minor account.
Who's that one?
Claimed their minor account. You're assessed a QB. That's your minor account. See, when you were born, when a child is born, it comes out of the water through the birth canal and is birthed at the dock by the doctor and is named as a vessel. The names of ships are all capital letters, named as a vessel. It arrives at the dock, it's docked, it's there for port taxes to be taken. Okay? You think I'm kidding? It puts you in admiralty jurisdiction. That's how they treat you. That's where the term doctor came from. 970 years ago. Doctor. Okay? There's a difference between a doctor and a physician. But aren't they all labeled doctors? Different jurisdictions. So you have to learn language. I can travel upon the roadways in private in my automobile with my passport as my protection. I am lawful. Or I can drive down the highway in my motor vehicle, follow all the rules, codes, and statutes, and I am legal with my driver's license. See, the same thing, just go down the road in the car, right? Car is short for carriage. Go down the road in the car. But I told you it's different too. It's all English, but it's 2 different languages. They call it legalese, right? There's actually 3 different languages in the English language in legalese for 3 different jurisdictions. Trust, trustee, beneficiary is in ecclesiastical or canon law. See? Contracts, which are what? Signatories. See, men and women, we write our autobiographies and we sign our autograph. If they're saying sign here, signature line, they're creating a contract here in admiralty law. I mean, see the language? See, the problem is they didn't teach us English in school. They didn't teach us law, legalese, the 3 different languages. It could be all in French, it could be all in Japanese, it could be all in English or Spanish. It doesn't matter. But there's inside each of those languages, there are 3 different languages of legalese. It's the word you use determines the jurisdiction under which you stand. Juris, right law, diction, words. Okay? What do they say? Oh, it's in the city's jurisdiction, or it's in the county's jurisdiction, or it's in the state's jurisdiction, or it's in the federal government's jurisdiction, or it's in this agency's jurisdiction. No, it's in their venue. See, all they did is took out the word venue and inserted the word jurisdiction to confuse the public. Now you're going, oh my God, what jurisdiction is it in? It's all admiralty, for Christ's sakes. It's all in one jurisdiction. Well, see how they confused you? You agree with that?
Unless you want them to do something for you, and they'll say, that's not my jurisdiction.
Inland piracy and slave trade, that's what it says. That's what it is. See, the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, the original 13th Amendment, let's talk about it first. The original 13th Amendment in the original Constitution, and prior to that in the Articles of Confederation, the first Constitution usurped the Articles of Confederation. See, most people don't know anything about the Civil War and about our history. But the name of this country originally was the Confederated States. Confederated United States of America. The Confederated States, United States of America. Then we became the United States of America in 1776. George Washington became our first president. But we had 13 presidents before that. Anybody know their names? Did anybody know one of them was black?
Governors of the colonies, right?
No.
Confederated.
The Confederated States. We're talking about the original United States prior to 1776. Then we became the United States of America. And then with Abe Lincoln, we changed again. See, Abe Lincoln put some things into place so that in 1871, which was after he died, it changed again. Okay? But let's talk about what those are. The original 13th Amendment was called the Tona Amendment.
What?
Tona, T-O-N-A, Titles of Nobility Act.
T-A-N?
T-O-N-A, Titles of Nobility Act. No bar association member could hold office in public office. Was a lawyer a bar member? Yes, he was. So he wasn't allowed to become the President of the United States. Not only that, prior to taking presidency, and I probably shouldn't be talking bad about, because we all have opinions about a president. But prior to becoming President of the United States, he was the governor of Illinois. He was also a neighbor and a follower of Karl Marx. And while he was governor of Illinois, and Illinois still screwed up because of it, he passed some laws that were known as communistic laws. So if you go spend 2 years in the National Archives in Washington, D.C., like I did, and you read letters and journals of people who were written during the time, you'll see that nobody wanted the communists as president of the United States. Looking for lightning bolts. As president of the United States. So it wasn't until the big bankers in Boston, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia got behind him and put $7 million into his campaign. You know how much $7 million was in 1859?
Big bucks.
That was a lot of money. You know his opponent had a $5,000 budget? That's why he was made president. They bought and paid for it. Okay? See, as children, we get up on stage when we're little. And we do this little play called 407 years ago. We're taught how honest old Alan Stave was and how he never told a lie. Right? And the teachers tell us, be persistent, kids, because even President Lincoln ran for president several times and failed. But if you just keep trying, one day you too could be president of the United States. So we're taught persistence by the use of Abe Lincoln, not knowing that he was actually, his presidency was bought for it. And because he was a bar member, they hid the original 13th Amendment, the Tona Amendment. You see? They basically hide anything they want those days, man. they printed a newspaper in New York, the guys in San Francisco were reading it for 3 months. Okay, we didn't have instant access to the internet. You know, it took a long time for news to get around. By then, everything's already been done and accomplished, you know, before the people found out about it. So anyway, he wasn't allowed to be president. So what happened? He goes in and he bankrupts the Virginia Trading Company and the original United States of America Trading Company. I say trading company, you remember Route 66? You remember all the old businesses on Route 66, how it said trading company, they were all unincorporated. Okay? And that unincorporated government is a de jure government of we the people. Everybody takes part, everybody votes, and it's a bottom-up form of government. Now we have a top-down form of government called corporation. All corporations are flipped on in. It's top-down. Right? A de jure government starts in our townships and parishes. And we all get together and we talk about what we need. And then we make law, pass law, and it works its way up to the top. Okay, that's not how our government is now. Right? So Abraham Lincoln couldn't be president of the original United States, so what did he do? He signed Executive Order number 1, which put the Grand Army and the Republic in charge of the United States government. And he bankrupted the original United States government. And he made himself Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Army. So that's how our president became Commander-in-Chief. See, prior to Abe Lincoln, we had never had an executive order. What is an executive order? Isn't an executive the head of a corporation? You see, he made the United States of America a Delaware corporation. Prior to that, it was unincorporated. All right? So he made it a corporation, he bankrupted the original United States, and all he did is capitalize capitalize, and he's got a corporation. And then we fought a civil war. What was the Civil War over? Don't say slavery, because it wasn't happening.
It was the division between North and South.
It was yes it was, but it was the Morrill Act. Senator Morrill, Abe Lincoln got Senator Morrill to pass a law that was an unfair tax advantage. The manufacturing companies and banking and railroads of the North were taxed at 3 to 6%. And the farmers of the South were taxed as high as 60% on cotton and tobacco and other things. And so when the Morrill Act passed, 11 delegates from 7 southern states walked out of Congress, leaving Congress without a quorum, leaving it sin die. It died that day. The government of the United States corporation that Abe Lincoln had formed died that day. So what did they do? Well, the Army was in charge of it. If you look at Executive Order number 100, which Lincoln signed within 30 days of his presidency, he signed 100 executive orders. None had ever been signed before in history. And then Lincoln signed 100 executive orders in 30 days. Executive Order number 100 was called the Labor Code. The Labor Code. It put the entire United States under martial rule. Not martial law, under martial rule. Who is the head of our court system right now? Don't hold up your hand and say the Attorney General. No, he's in charge of all the lawyers that run the court system. The head of the court system is the Provost Marshal General of the United States Army.
Who is it?
The Provost Marshal General of the United States Army is in charge of our court systems. But with the Posse Comitatus Act, he's not allowed to get involved in civil matters. Okay? That doesn't mean he can't hang a judge if he wants to.
Of the Army? It's the
Yes,
Provost
United States Army.
General of the
Grand Army of the Republic was put in charge of the United States government, and it has never been rescinded. We live under martial rule today. That's why there's been 5 Trading with the Enemy Acts. The Patriot Act, the NDAA Act, the original Trading with the Enemy Act, the Buck Act, start looking at the 5 Trading with the Enemy Acts. Who is the enemy? The United States citizen. The federal government's at war with the citizen.
This is just too much.
I know. You're gonna walk out of here like mind blown. Okay? Everything I'm telling you, I can back up with actual documents. Okay? When I learned this, my mind was blown, so I know exactly how you feel. And it took me 30 years to really learn the depth of the whole thing, and we're not even going to touch the surface of it. Barely. What I'm trying to do is boil it down to the simplest, ridiculous, most smallest basic elements, so you can make a start in your life of getting out of where you are and getting out from under that big thumb that's controlling you. Okay? So you can be free. I had a gentleman call me when I first walked into this building. I sat in that back pew and nobody was in here. And I had a gentleman call me. His name is Jermaine. And he is one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. And about 4 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago now, I got his kid back from CPS. And then he contacted me, and his house was in foreclosure. And I got his house out of foreclosure. And then he contacted me, and we put his land in land patent. And he called me to tell me that he finally realized through the Bible what equity law really means. Okay? And after doing all that for him and teaching him for 4 years, he finally hit him, and I said, light dawns on marbled head. I said, isn't it wonderful? Because I used to tell him, you know that guy on the TV show that has the baseball bat with Bob Marley? He's one of those guys I needed that with. I needed to just beat it into his brain. Because, you know, fairly young guy, he's probably your age. And he'd just been brought up and indoctrinated in life in the school system. And he didn't know any of this stuff. But when I taught him, it's like, oh my gosh. Now he owns a piece of property, he doesn't even have to pay property taxes on it. He doesn't have to go get a building permit to do what he wants on his property. Nothing. If you look at the United States law, United States Code, all property shall be in land patent. All property shall be in metes and bounds. You know how the county steals your house from you? Simple. Show me a tax statement. I'll show you 15 ways on your tax statement of errors and how they stole your property from you. Young husband and wife walks in, they're going to go buy their first home, right? They get a mortgage, they go to the title company to buy their first home, and they're sitting there signing all their mortgage documents, and the title officer looks across the desk at them and says, how would you like to hold title? And you guys go, look at each other, you know, I don't know, what are our options? And she says, well, most husband and wives hold title and joint tenants in common. You think about it, yeah, joint husband and wife. Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Right? And they sign their documents and they walk out. We're homeowners. Joint is husband and wife. Tenants is renter, common estate. Joint renters is the state. That's one way they stole your property, and that's not all. Let's look at your tax statement. Your tax statement has your name in all capital letters. Your person owns it, not you. Then it's got your address on it. It's got your zip code. Now they took it out of Arizona and they put it in Washington, D.C. for you, but you're just living on that property temporarily to do business. Okay? And now they re-describe your property. They say, oh, that's lot 27, block 3 of Spring Hill subdivision, Phoenix, Arizona. Right? Is that a meets and bounds? Oh, did they just break United States Code by re-describing my property? Yes, they did. That's a felony. But they did it anyway, because they're stealing their property on behalf of the state. It's okay. No, it's not okay. Then they give it a tax ID and parcel number instead of a land patent number. Look up your original land patent under your property. It's probably, Arizona's probably a Hidalgo, Guadalupe treaty. this property in land patent. All private property in land patent. Not the federal government's property, but any private property in land patent. Now your property, the land patent is probably this big, and your property is probably this big. So you find a land patent covered where your property sits. And now, that's your land patent number that goes on your title, right?
Yeah.
And then, this little tiny parcel, you just describe it with meets and bounds as part of the land, portion of the land patent. Put it back in land patent, get it recorded with the county. Now, it's her job to tell the tax assessor, hey, take that off the tax rolls. No more property tax.
I think you're gonna say put a square around it and then it doesn't.
Put a square around it.
No, I shouldn't do no, sorry. But that's just one way government starts to steal your life equity. Okay? So there's many, many ways. The birth certificate gave your child title to the state. Now they can walk in without any due process of law, kick your door in, take your kid out of your home. Half the time they don't even use a warrant, even if they do use a warrant. Half the time it's not signed by a judge because there hasn't been any judges in this country since 1789. They're all administrators. If you look at the word court in the law dictionary, one of the older law dictionaries, especially like Beauvair's or Black's Law Dictionary, if you look at the word court, it says see bank. See post office. All post offices are banks. You walk into any post office in the United States, you buy a U.S. District Postal Money Order, and it is backed by gold and silver, actually real money. It's one of the only real monies besides this stuff that's left in the United States.
So a postal money order is backed by gold and silver?
Yeah.
But no other money orders are?
No. They're backed by Federal Reserve notes. And a Federal Reserve note is legal tender. It doesn't even pay off a debt. It tenders it to a later date, until one day the state is settled. So everything you pay with Federal Reserve notes just tenders it until after you die. They receive the death certificate, and they settle the custody trust and balance the books. That's when all your debts are paid. Okay?
So you did the money before that?
As a man or a woman, we are the creditor.
Right.
Do you know that's originally why they're called credit reports? They're not debt reports. Look at HDR 192. All of our debts, the bankruptcy of the United States in 1933, every one of our debts are prepaid.
Yeah.
Because they're prepaid with the custody trust upon our debt. But they're essentially prepaid. They're prepaid because the day we were registered, we were bonded and insured.
The day we were what?
You gotta figure out how to.
The day you registered your kid, your birth certificate, when your birth certificate was registered, you were bonded and insured. If you were born between 1975 and 1933, you were bonded for $630,000 and you were insured for $1 million.
Wow.
If you joined the military like I did, you got an additional cuss-up number, which is an additional bond, it's an additional insurance policy. So is your Social Security card. So is your advanced degree in college, your student ID is an additional cuss-up
It's
number.
another box.
We can look up all these cuss-up numbers on the internet, and I can show you which companies are buying and selling you right now, can't we? Because we did that last night for you guys. See? And we can show you exactly what companies are buying and selling your United States Treasury bonds that are inside your LEI under your custom numbers. And if you type in your birth certificate number, what's that?
Can you get those credits before you're dead, out of the custom, to get those resources?
Yeah, you know why the federal government carries a debt? To tie up the Social Security trust. If the country was debt-free and paid their bills, any one of us could walk in and get our trusts
But we can't now.
by claiming the minor account. We pledged them. has the full faith and credit of the United States government. And I'm not saying we can't get them,
That's what I was
okay? That's a long class. Okay, you have to do it through a United States bankruptcy judge to go in as the creditor.
Right.
Okay, that's very
Have you
difficult.
done it?
It's very difficult to do. No, I have not.
How about?
Am I close to doing it?
Yes.
Very close. There's a lot you have to accomplish. See,
Right.
what you have to do is you have to unsell everything you've been sold.
Right.
That's the first problem. All those contracts you created your entire life,
You have to get out.
you have to unsell them.
But your blanket one that you say doesn't get you out of all those because you were misrepresented.
That's another subject.
Okay.
Like I said, that's a long class.
Mhm.
Okay, that's way up here, and we're way down here right now. This is the beginner's here. And I don't say that with any disrespect, okay? I don't know what level you are, some are at higher levels than others, it doesn't matter. We're all in this thing together, and the fact of the matter is, they are stealing our kids with no due process,
And
under the auspices. Yeah, absolutely. They're stealing us.
Yeah.
You know how they're stealing us? It's called statutes. There's
And votes.
188 million laws on the books that they call laws, which aren't law, that they hold us accountable of because we're a citizen. And they fine us for a misdemeanor or a felony, and every time they do, they go after our Social Security trust money. The Department of Fiscal Services, and this is all off-book money, it's reported on the GAC's off-book, okay? The Department of Fiscal Services says the Department of Justice is the biggest contributor to our federal government by far. What's our government budget this year? About $4 trillion. How much do they take into taxes? 990 billion. If you really understand the law, you'll know that even this 990 billion goes to interest paid to the IMF through the IRS, which is not part of our government, paid on the interest of the bankruptcy of our debts. Okay. Government is funded through our SESTA-QB trusts. How is it funded? There's 3 ways they can get your money. If you read SESTA-QB trust law, there's 3 ways they can get your money. They can find you guilty of a misdemeanor or a felony. They can take your kids. Then they can go after a husband and wife's SESTA-QB trust. Or if you die. Now when you die, here's what happens. It goes into probate. Your estate, and I'm not talking about the Federal Reserve dollars that you put in the bank in your house and your car and your furniture and your trinkets. I don't care about that. I'm talking just about the SESTA-QB trust. When it goes into probate and a death certificate is received, the estate is balanced. In other words, anything you paid for your whole life with checks and things like that, borrowed money, is now paid. The IMF prepays it and they get paid back, essentially. That's what the Federal Reserve note is. It's legal tender. It tenders it to a later date. The IMF is extending you credit. Every dollar you spend is an extension of credit. You're a debtor. Okay? And all you got to do is, you don't believe me, read any of the books written by any of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago wrote a wonderful one called Modern Money Mechanics. And you'll see that even if you go borrow $200,000 from a bank to buy a house, it didn't come out of their depositors' accounts. It didn't come out of their shareholders' or their corporation's accounts. They did a journal entry. It came off of your credit. And it's then reported on your credit report. They took the money from you, from the SESTA-QB trust, gave it to you to buy the house. Then you pay for it with your sweat equity that you earned your Federal Reserve notes with, and you paid these payments for 30 years, way more than what it originally was, right? And then you pay it off. Or if you miss 90 days worth of payments, they take it back from you. Everything you paid is lost, and then they resell it again and make their profit again and again. And if you wrote a check for your house payments, every check is a negotiable security. And they resell those 10 times over. So if you write a check for $1,000, they're going to make $10,000 just off your check. Because that's what they're allowed to do. You think this isn't usury? Fraud? Yeah. Yeah. So, read books. Read books written by the Federal Reserve and learn how money works in this country. It'll blow your mind. That's why I got a silver dollar in my belt buckle. And that's why I carry a gold coin in my pocket at all times. Because I can show a judge I use real money. What do you have to say about that? This is the only real money. Right here. You remove your handicaps from them. You use the fourth most important word in the law, which is previously. The fourth most important word in the law is previously. So you got presumption of you being a citizen, a person, a resident, and a minor. I don't talk about minors much because there's none of us know how to claim our minor account. Okay? And they presume those things, and therefore they have jurisdiction over you. And then they assume you did something wrong. Your house was too dirty. I'm sorry, I'm going to take your kid. You smacked your kid, there was a bruise. Maybe you did it, maybe you didn't. We don't care. Okay? So on and so forth. Whatever it was. They presume you're a drug dealer when you're not. They presume you broke the speed limit when you didn't. They presume whatever it is. I want to know where the first-hand witness is that swore under the oath of the penalty of perjury that you did what they said you did. And there better be two cooperating witnesses. Because one ain't good enough. Because I'll tear one to shreds. I can't tear two to shreds. Now I'm guilty. You see what I mean?
Is it perjury? Is it penalty of perjury?
Under the penalty of perjury.
So-
When we stand up on the stand and swear an oath, we are now under the penalty of perjury. When we submit an affidavit to the court, everything in that affidavit better be true, or because you're under the
But
penalty
they
of perjury.
get to lie.
They get to lie their asses off.
And we don't,
Oops. Lie people.
right? We don't.
I gotta be careful.
They can lie, but we can't.
Well, no, they can't morally lie. They just do it anyway.
They do, but how do you get them?
Because your attorney, he sat there on his butt. He didn't say anything. He didn't say, I object. Hearsay. We rebut that. We repudiate that. It's acquiescence. If they presume and assume the law, which they do, and they try you based upon hearsay, and you don't repudiate it, rebut it, object to it, yell hearsay at the top of your lungs. I want a case where a young man was charged with 18 felonies for doing nothing but trying to defend his wife and kids in his own home. See, I'll tell you about Nathan Cobat. I have a lot of experience with the Cobat family, it seems like, because Jamie Cobat was my first big federal case, where I met her after she was already found guilty of 4 felony counts of fraud. And she didn't spend one day in jail. They saved her 20 years of her life. Okay, that's a big deal. Even after the fact. Okay? People don't realize how big a deal that case was. In fact, all the attorneys, all the prosecuting attorneys, all the defense attorneys said, this is Judge Muslim. He's the #1 judge in the entire 9th District of the federal court. If you get sentenced, you get sentenced. It's that simple. It's cut and dry. None of them would even go up against him. I said, I'll go up against him. No problem. I can debate any judge or any lawyer. Okay? Because the difference is I know the law. See? And so we submit documents. And then I write a 5-page document for Jamie to stand up and read during the sentence. And you know what he did? I told her exactly what he was going to do. He's going to try and do 3 things. He's going to try and get you to take a public defender, and that pulls you back into his jurisdiction. He's gonna try and get you to contract, sign some kind of a plea deal. Or he's going to say, we need a competency hearing. Did you go to school from kindergarten through 12th grade and get a diploma? Don't you have a degree in competency from the government? Did you get a college degree? You got another degree in competency? I mean, on and on and on. I mean, we can go on forever on how competent we are. All right? Competency is like a last-ditch effort for them guys. Okay? And now they've even started to write state code where if they find you incompetent, then they've got you. See? So there's lots of different things about this that we've got to understand how to deal with them in the proper language, to be in the proper jurisdiction at the time we need to be in that jurisdiction. I had a guy called me this morning at 8 o'clock. They're the plaintiff trying to, they're the grandmother and grandfather trying to get the grandkids back. The children passed away. The state took the kids. And they're trying to get the grandkids back. They've been fighting this for a long time.
59 minutes for this.
And they want to know if they can use my document. I said, you can use things out of my document, but you can't use my document. Why? Because my document is designed for people who are on the defense in order to go on offense, because the best defense is a good offense. Okay? That's what it's designed for. But if you're going in as the plaintiff to sue somebody, there's things in the document, certain rights you have in the document that you can use. But the document's not for you if that's the situation. And we talked all about that, and I gave him a plan, and he's moving forward on the plan. Okay. So that's why Dave has been a little reluctant to willy-nilly just throw out my document to all of you guys. See, when I was taking an individual and we were taking the document into court, we started winning. Just like every single time. Prior to that, we were like a 40-50% win ratio, right? Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. And the more I started incorporating, understand this document. It's called the never perfect document for a reason, because I'm always making it better, all right? But I've also used parts and pieces off this document for many, many years. I just sat down one day and decided we've got to put it all together. Shorten this time frame, shorten how long these kids were gone, that kind of stuff. And we started using it, and we just started winning. Now, understand we're dealing with individuals, individual judges, individual prosecutors, individual CPS. You don't know what poker hand they're trying to play. Nobody has a crystal ball, so sometimes you got to push the document a little farther up the ladder, but eventually you win. Okay? And you got to get it in the right hands.
And what the ladder, what do you mean by that?
From CPS, family court, sometimes appellate to Supreme, Superior Court, or take it to federal. In Arizona, I just take everything to the federal court. Why? Because you got a crooked governor tied into a crooked attorney general who's tied into a CEO of a hospital who's stealing kids. And they're all tied together. Okay?
And elders.
All you got to do is tell when an attorney general signs personal documents on a personal case, something's wrong. Because he ain't supposed to do that. All right?
And elders too.
How do you,
Yeah.
how do you take, that's the question, how do you take them to federal court? What is the key to that? The key to that, I mean, what would be?
It's simple. Get the document judgmented in the lower court and then take it to the federal court to enforce the judgment. And we can judgment our own documents. How? Because they acquiesce. They ignore our affidavits for 21 days, thinking that we aren't smart enough to judgment them on the 22nd day. Thinking that we're not smart enough to have served them properly. You know, thinking lots of things. So I got to teach you how to serve it properly, how to keep a record of proof of service, how to certify that proof of service, how to certify your judgment. Then bind it all together. It's already court stamped and go refile it again. Now you've got a judgment on the record that they can't ignore. The law is pretty clear on unrebutted affidavits becoming the judgment. There's multiple case law on that. Okay?
Could you repeat that process
Yeah.
a little louder?
Yeah,
I couldn't hear you back here.
We need that, I need you to, please, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Like you said, I've been talking for a week from.
It's very important. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Do you need some more water?
Right.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
about the judgments, okay, we have an affidavit, we go and we record the affidavit. You should make at least three original copies of the affidavit that you go get notarized, same document. You walk in with 2 copies into your lower court, and four is fine too, but you walk in with at least 2 copies, and they're both original, you're going to give one to them and get it put on the record. They're going to court stamp that, but you want them to court stamp your copy that you take back. That's your proof of the court. You also want to make copies of those. And up in the top corner, just write, certified true copy of the original, X in the line, and sign your name to it, and serve that to every opposing party. The prosecutor, the CPS worker, the more people to see it, the better. So make people up, send it to the CEO of the hospital.
Oh, that thing,
I know we went over this last
I
night,
don't
but,
know.
so you take one of
They
the
probably
copies
put it
back,
on the USB drive.
and then you write on top of it, and
No, you make copies, and on top of the copies, you write
I
that.
can try.
Because those go to the opposing parties. The minute you file it in the court, you've got to serve the opposing parties. Go serve them.
And make sure you don't put a box over.
Try and get it done that day.
Could you start it out as, when you say lower court,
What court's coming after you?
the
Who's coming after you? They give you a document, right? And
superior?
it's got the court name and the prosecutor and whoever's coming after you, that's the court you're in. That's who you serve it on first.
Does that also help with the appeal case, if you're waiting on an appeal attorney?
No, appeals look to see what the lower court did wrong. They don't care about the details of your case, they don't care about any of that, really. They just want to see if the lower court messed up. That's what an appeal is, really. I don't ever see many appellate cases getting turning over the lower courts anymore, because they're all in it together, they're all in it for the same buck.
Yeah. I don't go any trust from it either, and I want my kids back home.
It's a petty question. I got everything you said on the instructions, and, I have 3 copies at home, but then I have 2 copies, and I'm in court, and I get one, so that the recorder.
Well, you're at the court, not at a hearing. We're talking about filing it into your court case. So you walk into the courtroom, walk up to the clerk's office.
well, you can
Hopefully
serve-
weeks before it starts.
You can serve those parties in
Tomorrow.
court,
Goes,
because they're right there.
Yeah,
Right.
I was doing about now, I'm more confused. When I'm giving it to the clerk, I give it to the clerk to record and get it stamped before the hearing starts or during.
yeah, hopefully a month before, 2 weeks before, as far before as you could possibly get.
Okay, so I give it to the one copy.
You walk into the court clerk's office,
Okay.
she's the court recorder, she's the one that puts the documents onto your case record.
I understand now. I thought you
Okay.
meant a little report so that it's recorded.
No, I'll tell you why you want to do it as far ahead of time as possible,
Yeah.
because
Hearing this
they
on
won't
the-
rebut it.
Trial starts Monday morning at 9.
That's all right. I've done it, I've walked into court and done it,
Okay.
but the sooner the better.
And then Angela, you can pass those out to the other parties right before the court.
Here's the deal with an
I
affidavit.
didn't hear. What did she say? I have a hearing problem, but I also didn't hear another thing. What do I put for my client? That's the only last thing I didn't understand. When I give the copies for everyone before I go to court, but it has my signature.
You just certify that it's a true and original copy.
True original copy, that's all.
In other words, you didn't put one into court, and then when you went home and go, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. You make some changes and serve it. It's got to be you're swearing this under the oath of penalty of perjury. Any affidavit. So it's got to be true, it's got to fit you. So my document, you have to take and modify to fit you, your person, man, woman.
And when you mail it
That
out,
was a
what
test.
is the best way to mail it out when you certify? Because I sent things with it, they're supposed to sign, and they don't sign it, or they just don't even send it, they send it back.
You need to have some form of proof of service. Now, you can walk into the prosecutor's office
Okay.
and talk to the receptionist and say, this needs to go to the prosecutor. I need you to sign for the receipt of that. Give me a receipt. That receipt's your proof of service.
Where do you think
Or
it's
stamp for the principal.
The only question I would have is that
Yeah.
when you're serving someone, okay, you know, obviously you got a process, you don't, anyone over the age of 18 can serve, but what you cannot do is if you're party to the complaint, you cannot normally serve the document because then you're like a line saying, okay, I'm gonna give this guy, so it has to be a third party, somebody that doesn't have any say-so, so that's
United States Postal Service,
Right, can do it. That's right.
UPS, FedEx,
That's right.
tracking number. Those are, I was just gonna get into that. You've got to have a third party do it like that.
So, with her case,
That-
would she give those affidavits right then and there
In court,
in court? Oh, okay,
yes, because you've got witnesses
gotcha.
I can't.
to it, okay? You got the judge, you got the prosecutors, you got them as witnesses if you're doing it that day. I don't recommend doing it that day.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is that then the judge can say, okay, we're gonna cancel the whole thing for the time being because we have time to respond.
And that's right.
And that's-
And that, by the way, I've used that tactic to buy time.
Yes, okay.
Because I let him read the document and go over.
I walk into court and I grab the document and I hold it up in the air and I say, have you read it?
Okay.
If you haven't read it, I suggest you suspend this hearing for a later date until you've had a chance. You want to make sure they've read the documents, okay? Because usually by the time they get down to about that 10th page of the document, they're getting a little fearful that they're going to be held on charges. Okay? So,
Are they really?
absolutely right.
Because these,
I have personally put a lot of judges and prosecutors in jail.
great.
Okay, they are not immune. I don't care what you think, they are not immune. They're holding a position of public trust.
Mm-hmm.
They're breaking that trust. Then I'm going to crucify them. Okay? You've probably seen some pretty cool things happen in the last few months, like the entire Supreme Court of Pennsylvania,
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
the entire Supreme
Yeah.
Court of West Virginia.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Okay?
Oh, Pennsylvania. I didn't-
You're going to start seeing my buddy Chris Howlett going after emoluments causes. Emolument is anything they earn $1 for in public service and do not follow their oath of office. They can be brought up on emoluments charges. And he went before Congress and got permission to do that. So the whole company to do that, called E-Clause, LLC. And he goes after judges and prosecutors in the legislature.
I just wanted to know if with this affidavit, like, how does it help me in this process of going through the appeal process now? Since my rights have already been severed, I'm just curious.
Your rights are already been severed, you're going through the appeal process, and I don't want to burst your bubble by telling you probably not a damn thing is going to happen. I doubt they're going to overturn it. It's a very rare occurrence that they overturn a lower court. Unless you can prove that they created some kind of violation, like a Brady violation or something like that. Okay? That's the only time an appellate court is going to overturn anything. If you're trying to base it upon your facts in your case,
How about the
it's over.
Fourth Amendment violation?
Can't you get him back on fraud with this document?
Yeah.
They were already appointed to it.
See, here's the purpose of the document. You notice how there's no detailed facts about your particular case? Because the Bar Association has a motto. And the motto is, no fact or truth shall be tried in court. Did you hear that?
I'm sorry.
Did you hear that?
No.
The Bar Association has a motto. No fact or truth shall be tried in court. It really doesn't matter what the details are of your case.
It's all codes and such.
Okay, the other thing is, they have created a system of policies and procedures to screw you up. All right? Oh, you missed that deadline. You didn't file soon enough. You didn't file in the right way. You didn't file on the proper form. You didn't want the formal boxes anyway. Okay? See, I don't file motions. You know what a motion is? It's a plea. It's a beg. Judge, can we just move this thing along? Will you please rule on this up or down?
That explains how lazy those two attorneys were.
No, attorneys have to file motions. You got to understand, they're working within their labor union. The defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney and the judge, they all go golfing together later. They all go out to lunch. That is a labor union. It's a criminal mafia bar association is what it is. It's a labor union. No state licenses an attorney. Do you understand that? No state licenses an attorney. The Bar Association of the state licenses the attorney. Does that right there tell you they're not part of de jure government? I mean, we got to wake up, guys. We all got to wake up and understand how de facto works, what it means. De facto is without fact. Rules, codes, statutes, ordinances, policies, executive orders are not law. They are corporate bylaws. They are de facto. It says that right in the U.S. Code. Okay? What does that truly mean? That means they're operating under the color of law. And because people are good, honest, moral people, even the Supreme Court says this in several cases, because people are good, honest, moral people, we obey things that are not law on the premise that they are. Four most important words in the law: presumption, assumption, hearsay, and previously. I start telling you about Nathan Kobach. Nathan, young family, had a couple of little kids, been out of high school about 10 years. He goes into Safeway store, and he's in the Safeway store buying some groceries that his wife told him to pick up on the way home. How all the wives do.
Oh,
I said that. Anyway, pick up on the way home, and he runs into two of his friends from high school he hasn't seen in 10 years. Hey, come on over to the house tonight, and we'll have a beer, we'll talk, catch up, right? Stuff a lot of guys do. So his friends come over to the house, and they come over, they probably already had a few. Nathan hands them a beer, and they all sit around, and they're talking for a while. One of them's getting very belligerent. And Nathan says, you know, I got two little kids in the bedroom right there, and my wife's sitting right here. If you're going to talk that way, I'd just soon you leave. And he started escorting them to the door. And they walk out the door, and they walk over down the sidewalk, and they walk to their car, and one of them gets in, and the other one says, I'll be right back. He slams the door. And he walks back into the house, and he walks up to Nathan, and he grabs Nathan by the throat, and he holds him up against the wall. And the guy's quite a bit bigger than Nathan. He's a big dude. And he's got Nathan by the throat. So Nathan, he's a concealed weapons permit holder. He reaches in here, he grabs his pistol, and the guy sees it. And he grabs his arm, and he holds it up in the air. And he chokes Nathan out until Nathan falls to the ground, passed out.
and his wife is watching.
And his wife's screaming, trying to beat on this guy. But he's a big dude. I think he's bigger than this guy right here. You're a pretty big dude. Okay? And then the guy leaves. Goes against his car after he sees Nathan lying on the ground, and he leaves. So his wife runs over, she's shaking Nathan awake, takes her a little while. Once Nathan wakes up, she says, call the cops, 911. And the wife makes a mistake. She goes, probably ought to take your shoulder holster off your pistol and put it in bed. So the cops come over and they take Nathan's statement. They go over and they arrest the two guys, take them into jail, and they go over and interrogate them. And they find out Nathan pulled a gun. Nathan didn't, and his wife didn't tell him about the gun. So now they go back to Nathan's house, they arrest him. And we have this very liberal governor named Kate Brown. And anybody that uses a gun at any point, even if they're just defending their family in their own home, she says, throw the book out. So they charge Nathan with 18 felony counts, right? So anyway, Jamie goes to a family reunion. And at the family reunion, she hears Nathan's story. She hadn't talked to Nathan in 5 years or more. And she hears Nathan's story, and Nathan says, yeah, I'm probably going to jail tomorrow. I have court tomorrow morning. And Jamie shakes him and says, you better call David straight. He says, it's 11 o'clock. She says, call David, he's up. He calls him at 11 o'clock the night before his trial. He's got a public defender, and his wife is scared to death and won't let him fire his public defender because that's the person who wants to tell him about it. Fire your damn attorney, you got an attorney. There's nothing I can do to help you, really. Okay? And his wife will want to fire the attorney. So I spent about 2 hours on the phone with Nathan teaching him the basics of law, kind of like what I'm doing right here. And of course, you're not going to get very far on the phone the night before a trial, right? So I called Jamie up. I said, Jamie, I know it's midnight. By then it's probably 1 o'clock. I said, you need to go to Nathan's trial tomorrow because I can't. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to call Nathan first thing in the morning. Tell him to call his attorney to meet an hour before court. And he did. And Jamie showed up. And I said, Jamie, here's what I want you to do. You walk up to the attorney and you say, we're going to have a little problem here unless you do exactly what I tell you to do right now. Now, attorneys don't like to hear that, right? And she says, I'm going to bring you up on criminal charges as soon as this thing is done, unless you do what I'm about to tell you to do. Every word that comes out of the prosecutor's mouth, I want you to say hearsay. I want you to object to it. I want you to rebut it. I want you to repudiate it. And it better be every single line, because I'm going to be sitting over there watching you. And I'm going to take notes. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm filing criminal charges against you tomorrow. And don't think we don't have a list of charges we can put against any attorney. Bar attorney, for one. Look it up. It's named after the Bar Association. Okay? Well, read Title 18 of the United States Code. There's a big, long list in there. Okay? And so the attorney would look over at Jamie, and Jamie would look right at it like that. Every time the prosecutor says something, she'd object, she'd yell hearsay, she rebutted it. She did a great job. And they said, all right, it's time for the defense. The prosecutor presented their case. Now it's time for the defense. And the defense stands up and says, there was no first-hand witnesses. There was no affidavit. The police officer is not a first-hand witness. We objected to everything there was. Nathan, are you innocent? Yes, I'm innocent. That's the only word that he said. And we rest. And then the judge dismissed the jury to go deliberate. Everybody gets up, walks out of the courtroom, they get out in the hallway, and the judge says, come on back. Everybody walks back in. They thought they were going to lunch. They walk back in, and the jury comes out and says the state did not present a case. He's innocent on all charges. 18 felony counts of fraud.
But he did that with the attorney.
He did it with an attorney. But an attorney would have sat on their butt and said nothing. But that's how powerful a word hearsay is. When everything is hearsay, everything is presumption and assumption. If that's all you know how to do, you can defend yourself. If that's all you know how to do. That's very, very important to learn.
And say hearsay.
What's that?
Just say hearsay.
Hearsay. I object. I rebut that. I repudiate that fact. Get your thesaurus out.
Every word that connects to hearsay.
Right.
I think the one thing that they're forgetting is the fact that the reason why they're saying is so it goes in the court record, which then opens up for an appeal. Should have happened, that's probably what's happened to yours. I haven't had an appeal because they didn't object properly. They don't want to hear any new information, and the last part of the thing is it's got to be something newly discovered evidence, then the appellate court will look at that, okay, part of the appeal. But here, the reason why he's saying you gotta say it, it's gotta be on the court record, then you get the copy of the thing on top of that recording for $10, and then you can work with it.
Yeah, but most times if you've got a jury, they'll understand that the state didn't present a case. Well, if you stand up and you say there was no first-hand witnesses, there was no evidence, there was no, police officer not a first-hand witness. They get there after the fact. Was he there when Nathan pulled his gun? Was he there when Nathan got choked out? No, he wasn't standing in the living room having a beer with the rest of the guys. Okay, so.
I have a question. I have an attorney that I keep wanting to bring, Linda, as my ADA advocate, and he just would not let her in. What can I do to...
Don't have an attorney and don't have an advocate. I love advocates, but don't have them in court. No one can know your case and present your case like you. So you got to grow up and be a woman.
Gotcha.
Stop being a person, a citizen, a resident, a minor. Be the woman, the living soul, the daughter of God that you were intended to be, and speak for yourself. That's number one. That's the first thing you got to do. Because when you have an attorney, you are a ward of the court. You're unable to speak for yourself. You're declared incompetent. Okay? Just in the very nature of it.
David, these two women have the same, they have guardian ad litems. They have appointed attorneys plus guardian ad litems. She has 6 psychological reports that say that she is completely competent. There's nothing wrong with her. She has a lot of good evidence in her corner. But these guardian ad litems are just standing by, raking in the dough, based on...
Yeah, every one of those are a con job.
Yeah.
Every one.
So when she fires her lawyer in the court, the court made her sign the letter saying that she would not ask for any more lawyers.
Good.
Not really proof, though.
No, but
It was just outrageous.
good. Just fire your lawyer.
I think they said it.
If they say, no, you got to have a public defender. No, I'm sui juris. No, I'm sui juris. No, I'm sui juris. J.
Howard Guardian ad litem is supposed to have the technical.
What's that?
Howard Guardian ad litem is supposed to have the technical, and that means.
How are they supposed to help?
But generally, yes.
They don't help anything.
Because they have lost my son,
We didn't say I would sign it. They wanted me to sign to a contract, and I said, nope.
You're doing
Well,
just
for
your own jurisdiction,
not the main jurisdiction of the board. What is?
Now, stop worrying about your personal details.
Okay.
You go after them on jurisdiction and fraud. The only 2 things without statute of limitations, I don't care if you're 20 years into a life sentence, you can go back on your jurisdiction of fraud and avoid it from the beginning, ab initio, right from the beginning. Got 3 people out of jail that way just in the last year. Okay? And their record's gone. I mean, wiped off the face of the earth, gone. You look up their court cases, it says does not exist. Why? Because they don't want this fraud exposed on the public record, and some law student at Cornell or Yale or Harvard finding it and going, holy shit, we can win every case now. You know how much money I can make?
We don't want that memo.
They don't want it on the record.
Right.
So my job is to get it on as many records as we possibly can, as fast as we possibly can, so as many people find it as fast as we can, and then the attorneys are going to eat their own. It's going to self-destruct from the inside. This bar association is going to go away.
Yeah.
We can walk up to President Trump and say, see what we did? Now let's denounce the treaty with the Bar Association. See, constitutions and treaties, okay, I want to start at the beginning. God's law is superior law. Superior law. Constitutions and treaties are supreme law. And everything else is way down here. It's a dirt on the ground. Okay? It's now corporate bylaws. See, Congress, the Constitution of the United States says only Congress can pass laws.
Yeah. Yeah.
They haven't passed a law since 1860.
And they haven't been ratified.
All they pass is statutes. Every act of Congress has a line in it that says, this act shall not affect any rights thus previously established. That means they have Abe Lincoln. Thank you. I just told you, Abe Lincoln incorporated the United States. Okay? Every act of Congress has that line. This act shall not affect any rights thus previously established. What does that mean? That means Congress doesn't pass any ex post facto laws. None. Every act of Congress since then is a corporate bylaw. That's why the Supreme Court says rules, codes, statutes, and ordinances are not law. And they say that in multiple cases. Read Hale versus Handel, 1906. It's been upheld by the courts 1,600 times. It's the most upheld case there is. And you know what it's telling you when you read it? Exactly what I'm telling you standing up here. I could have just repeated Hale versus Handel. I would probably told you everything that I can tell you. Okay? And a wonderful case. And that's just one. There's hundreds of them.
This law shall not affect any rights
Thus previously established. That means our rights were established as a de jure government. The de jure government never died. It's within all of us if we want to claim it. If we want to be the Arizona, the man.
But you first have to, sorry to interrupt you, but one of the things is, do you first have to
Establish your status?
establish your status?
What does the United States Code say? The United States Code says we have to notify the Secretary of State
Right.
via affidavit.
If we don't do
Now,
that,
John Kerry, when he was in office, he says, I don't want to see any of those affidavits. You can do it through the passport agency. Okay? And it's all in how you fill out the DS-11. Okay? There's a right way and a wrong way to fill out the DS-11. If you fill it out one way, you're going to be a U.S. citizen. If you fill it out another way, you're going to be a state national. a U.S. national. If you fill out in another way, you're going to be what they call us state nationals, which is non-resident aliens, because we're non-resident alien in the District of Columbia. See, the United States, USA Inc. and United States Inc., those are actually, USA Inc. is a French foreign corporation. Okay? They're all privately held companies, corporations.
I signed something like that to join something called Venture. And I have to find out what I signed. Because I don't know what I am now.
Okay? A state national under Title 1101 A21 is your lawful designation. Title 1101, Section 1101 A21. That's your lawful designation as a state national. When you're a state national, according to the Geneva Conventions, you have limited diplomatic immunity. What does the word limited mean? It means if you don't harm someone or their property, you're fine. You live in freedom. So when you harm somebody or their property, now you're held under common law, which has much stiffer penalties, by the way. So if you are going to harm somebody or hurt somebody, you'd probably be better off under admiralty. Some of these guys who murder people get a slap on the wrist in 5 years and they're out. Under common law, they'd be hanged.
Even if it's for self-defense?
No, that's not murder.
It's not sorry, you're contempt legal.
No.
Question.
You know what self-defense is, right? Self-defense is when a CPS worker comes up and she works for a private, for-profit business, and you put a bullet between her eyes when she's stealing your kids. That's self-defense. Now, defending yourself against that's pretty hard. That's a different story. But that's truly what self-defense is. The Second Amendment was there to protect us from the tyranny. Okay?
If we use that,
Judge Napoleon says that really well.
if we talk about retribution of any kind, if we're very careful
Oh,
about
that's because
that.
you've got to be a sweet little citizen.
That's right.
Good little citizen. Your social security number is your subservient slave ID number.
Why?
That's why they want us to be silent.
Yeah, they want you to be silent. They don't want you posting on Facebook. They don't want you to do that kind of stuff. They tell you, they make you sign a contract saying you won't do it. You know what I do? I sign the contract and put it out twice as much as you were going to.
Oh, yeah.
Because if we don't start standing, see, when we give them an inch, well, we're really nice to that police officer when he stands up. You know, I'm not saying be mean. I smile on them, ask them how their day is, all that kind of stuff. It's how you treat them. But you have to say, officer, do you know under Title 18, Section 242, do you deprive me of my rights, which is a felony, under the color of law? Okay. Yeah, there's two of them, then you use 241 too. And then if you want to bring up Section 1983, under Title 18, 1983, it says you can charge the officer.
Yes. Wow.
I'm telling you, they commit multiple felonies every time they deal with you. And the list of felonies is long. I mean, I printed off 134 felonies that a judge commits, just putting you through a trial. 134 different felonies. To get you on a misdemeanor? Now, how's that feel?
All these things.
What sucks is our lack of education.
Yes.
Okay? They should have taught us this stuff in school.
Yeah.
You know how powerful I'd be if I want to learn what I know now at 25 or at age 20?
Good Lord.
Or when I got out of the Navy?
Yeah, I told my son, you're not going to a regular college, so forget it. I'm not paying for it. Go get a trade. Go get a trade and then read books.
Let me tell you a quick, short version of the story of my Navy career.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you for listening.
When I joined the Navy, I tested a little bit high. And I was a damn good shot because I grew up on 3,000 acres and I could take out a gopher a long ways away, boy. Coyotes, anything that harmed our animals, I could take them out. Grew up a farm boy. And so what did they do? They shipped me down to San Diego. They put me in the Navy SEAL training program. And it was during Ronald Reagan's war on drugs, and I was shipped to, put aboard a ship off the coast of Panama. I was stationed out of Panama. And we would jump in these life rafts, Zodiacs, with a 50 caliber machine gun and some other small arms, and we would go up these rivers, right? And we'd duck under the trees that would overhang the rivers, and we'd sit and wait. And pretty soon, the Navy would send a bunch of Marines in the helicopter over these drug haciendas, and they'd land out in the jungle about 3 or 4 clicks away. And the Marines would work their way up to the front of the drug haciendas, and they'd engage the drug army. Okay, the drug dealers' army. They had pretty good armies too, by the way. And we'd sit there on the river and we'd hear all the guns going off. And we started watching the pathways coming down the river. Pretty soon, the drug dealer and a couple of his guys are running down these paths and they're jumping into a boat on the river. That's where we were. See? One day I'm standing on the boat and we're just about ready to engage. They were right there, they're climbing in their boat, we're just about ready to engage. And boom, I get hit in the chest. I'm wondering, what the heck was that? I mean, did a bird fly into me? You know, adrenaline's flowing pretty high. When adrenaline's flowing high, you don't feel stuff. And I went like this, and I felt something. I pulled this bullet out of my breastbone, and I put it in my pocket. It was stuck in my breastbone. And I engaged. We started firing. And we had a dossier on everybody. And we formed these dossiers on all these drug dealers. And certain ones, we're supposed to take them out.